I'm not saying this to alarm you. I'm saying this because you should be alarmed.
Because you're talking about what Biden has been saying, and Biden is calling people names, and you left one out. You left out the fact that Biden called me a Neanderthal for opening at Texas 100% and eliminating masks. So now I am, by Biden's assessment, a Neanderthal and a racist, both of which are completely wrong. What's going on in Texas with regard to this election law we're trying to pass, as you pointed out very perfectly, we are adding hours to vote, not subtracting hours to vote. Everything we're doing is perfectly legal.
In other words, it's not an arrest in the traditional sense, but the Texas law allows for law enforcement to escort them to do their job, which is mandated by law. Is that a correct statement?
That, and I'll add to it, so they will be brought to the Capitol. They will be brought to the Texas House chamber, and the House chamber doors will be locked, and no one can leave without permission of the Speaker of the House.
Last question. I'm concerned about the weaponization of the Department of Justice as the new Attorney General, Merrick Garland, now is going after Georgia, that has far more accessibility for voting than Joe's state of Delaware. That seems to me like they have weaponized our Justice Department. And why wouldn't they go after the state with the most restrictive laws like Joe's state? Because he never lifted a finger to lift the restrictions in Delaware.
Exactly. It's completely hypocritical. Also, as you were pointing out, Texas has more voting hours in early voting than does Delaware. The same is true in Texas versus the state of New York, for example. But of course, there's no chance that the Biden administration would go after Delaware or New York or any Democrat state. So the American people are getting a feel for where the Biden administration is, and that is hostile to anything that doesn't fit the socialistic agenda of the Biden administration. I will continue calling special session after special session after special session, so they will have to be gone from the state of Texas all the way up until the next election. Here's the bottom line, Sean, of what this will lead to, because this is...
Maybe they could pay the higher taxes to D.C. Go ahead, sir.
This is the point the Democrats have not thought of. What is their end game? They haven't thought about that. And I can tell you what the end game is. We are going to have a special session where these and other issues are going to be voted on, including doing a better job of securing our border, including cutting our property taxes in Texas, including helping our teachers, our retired teachers that they were voted relief today by the Texas Senate, but they're not going to get it because the Texas House members are not there. We voted out of the Texas Senate today property tax relief that the people of Texas will not get because the Democrats were not in the Texas House of Representatives. So they have a job to do. And let me tell you something. Texas voters are going to be extremely angry at the Texas House members for not showing up and not doing the job. If you didn't show up and do your job, if other people who are watching your show right now did not show up and do their job, they would be losing their job or losing their pay. That is exactly what is going to happen to the members of the Texas House of Representatives.
Vice President Kamala Harris insulting half of the country by claiming voter ID laws won't work in rural America because apparently people who live there aren't smart enough.
I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are. Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't, there's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them.
Just to let her know, there's no Kinko's in the rural areas because there's no Kinko's at all. Lawrence, I look at this as progress. Before, when they were making the voter ID arguments, they were just insulting black people. Yeah. Right? It was just only black people. Now it's white people. We're all stupid, according to the Democrats.
I wouldn't obviously have not had a discussion about voter ID that revolved around Xerox machines and the proximity to getting.
So you agree it was bad?
That's the problem. So 11% of Americans don't have valid government photo ID. Is backing Manchin's plan, which requires photo ID, but it can be something like a utility bill. And I think that if Republicans are desperate, or a phone bill, anything that you get at your home, because there are issues with people matching birth certificates to their Social Security cards, et cetera, especially for elderly voters and Black and Latino communities. So let's talk about getting somewhere with that so we can get the John Lewis for the People Act.
So if it's free IDs for everyone, does that remove the issue about voter ID? If everyone gets an ID?
I think I
Did in
don't
South
Okay, let's do it.
Carolina.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think the challenge that the Democrats have is they can never actually find somebody that they could show as an example. Here's Tom Stevens. He doesn't have an. They always talk about this group, but it's not there, and it's because, Jesse, they know that it doesn't. IDs don't make it hard to vote. It makes it hard to cheat. And they're trying to make it sound like, oh, this is making it hard to vote. Then show me one person. Just show me one.
According to the Brennan Center, there are 40 million Americans that can't prove who they are.
Yes.
There's 40 million of you guys out there. Wow. I love what the Texas governor said. He goes, we want to make it easier to vote, harder to cheat. How could you disagree with that? Easier to vote, harder to cheat. Did you say that?
2 seconds ago.
All right, well, you plagiarized Abbott because he said it on the weekend. So all you want to do to make it harder to cheat is what? Signature requirements, deadlines, understanding the chain of custody, transparency in the count rooms. All you want to know is what's going on and who you are as you say you are. None of that conflicts with making it harder to vote. None of that.
Yeah.
So when I see Kamala Harris, you know how she gets that little shoulder thing going? She goes, it's a democracy. Like, that's a point? What is like the thing she does with her head? That's not a deep point.
It's kind of like this.
Right. Is that her signature move?
Yes.
So it's almost like, if you're going to lie to me, make it convincing. So here's the lie. Like, she actually cares about obstacles to voting in rural America. She doesn't care if someone in Wyoming has to drive 40 minutes to a Kinko's. She cares if someone in Atlanta or Philly or Detroit has to wait 5 more minutes. I'd almost appreciate it if she said, I want to make it easier to vote for everybody. I don't care if there's fraud. I don't care. There's going to be fraud. That's fine. I just want to make it easier. All we want are guardrails. And why is that so difficult? No one has been able to answer that question yet.